At 4, I'm Lizzie Siles. Turning now to our top 4 at 4 o'clock. He was once the most powerful man in Illinois politics, and now former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan is a convicted felon. A federal jury found Madigan guilty of bribery, wire fraud, and bribery conspiracy. He was acquitted of 7 other counts, including racketeering. Jurors could not reach a unanimous decision on 6 other counts. Madigan is partly convicted of running a years-long criminal enterprise to make money for himself and his political allies by leveraging his legislative power. Prosecutors have not decided whether they will seek a retrial on the deadlocked counts. There also has not been a date set for sentencing. Madigan could face up to 20 years in prison on just the wire fraud charges. He is 82 years old. Jurors also deadlocked on charges against co-defendant Mike McLean, who was tried alongside Madigan. 20-year